Welcome back, Wolfpack Verlis here, and let's head from Kalos to Hoenn and take Greninja with us. So Greninja gets some really good move tutors in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, Low Kick and Gunk Shot being the main ones, that they really cover up a lot of what Greninja needed, but Ice Punch still gets a nice little mention because it makes pure physical Greninja have a little more extra, and you can kind of run these kind of offsets with an Ice Punch, but most likely Ice Beam is going to be the better option. Higher damage works with your better ability, or better stat. So when we look at Greninja, it's going to want to be a Protean Fiend with Life Orb and going as much speed as possible. That Greninja has to run speed because that's such a unique speed. 122 base speed is really awesome because you don't have to worry about any 120 speed base ties that a lot of Scarf Pokemon, if they're really slower and bulky, they still can't keep up with you. And you really only have to worry about Scarf, Focus Sash, and the very few faster Pokemon than Greninja, so it's really safe at that speed. But that's where it's a very vulnerable Pokemon as well, that we're not investing into a 100 special attack, that your max barely breaks 305, and that even if you look at your attack doesn't get too high, but Greninja makes it work. That Protean ability makes everything stab, so instead of having two stab types for being a dual type, it pretty much turns everything into a little bit of a buff with that 50% same type attack bonus, and then Life Orb. Life Orb is going to make it to where you're doing bonus damage, and it doesn't really affect Greninja. That Greninja is incredibly frail, that if Greninja gets touched, it's going to take an incredible amount of damage or just get knocked out. So Life Orb, you're pretty much trying to hit fast, hit hard, hit super, and get KOs anyway, so the Retribution doesn't really worry about the recoil, and you should be good to go. And that's what Greninja does. Greninja, it wants to make a pick. It wants to come in as a revenge Pokemon, outspeed the opponent, catch them off guard, hit a super, get a KO, and after that it's really susceptible, but it's done its job as a ninja. It gets in, it takes out the target, and then you're good to go. But this is where Greninja starts getting interesting, because a lot of Greninja really wants to be special. That it gets Dark Pulse, Ice Beam, Scald, Hidden Power. If you use Hidden Power Fire, you have really well-balanced coverage. That you hit a lot of things really well, that this will stop out those Ferrothorn and Scizor threats that you'll see, maybe even the Off Fortress every once in a while. Scald, Water type, can't go wrong with that. Ice Beam and Dark Pulse are going to round out really well, and again, you're outspeeding everything, you're looking for that super effective, and you're going to get a lot of KO potential because of Protean and Life Orb boosting your damage. There's also a lot of other things that Greninja can run as well. Extra Sensory, Grass Knot, Hydro Pump. Hydro Pump, higher damage, some more secured KOs, and a very solid neutral hit, but lower accuracy, so that's the risk you're going to take. And then there are some purists out there, they still like Shadow Sneak, they still like Water Shuriken, and those are still good because priority, even though it's lesser damage, somehow if you don't finish off the opponent but they're bulkier so they don't finish you off, you can pick them off with priority, or you can come in and redemption against like a priority Pokemon like Talonflame if it's already pretty low with a Water Shuriken or something. You can make it work out. It's some very niche circumstances though. But if we look at this, Greninja doesn't have fighting or poison. It can't handle fairy type Pokemon really well, and it doesn't have much to handle normals or even steel without like the hidden power fire. So that's where Gunk Shot and Low Kick come in. That Gunk Shot and Low Kick, they round out Greninja, but there's a trade-off. Your special attack, that's your higher stat. You're going to be wanting to invest into that, and that's where most of your well-rounded damage comes in. Ice Beam, solid hit. Dark Pulse, solid hit. Scald, solid hit and coverage. Some people, they'll even run with Surf because more damage, it just wants the super effective hit. Scald with the burn is really nice, but overall you can still see some Surf and expect the higher damage, and there's really no problem with that. So now people are trying to go for these weird sets that instead of running Timid, like which is what the main set you'd want to run with a pure special Greninja, they're mixing it up with Naive and Hasty. Naive is going lower special defense, Hasty is going lower defense. It kind of doesn't really matter since you're not losing too many points since it's such a low stat and you're going to get destroyed anyway. And then they're mixing it up, like what moves can you add onto it? Well, Ice Beam is a must for dragons, Dark Pulse is the great coverage, so then people will kind of throw in a Gunk Shot. Gunk Shot's going to handle those fairy types really well, but then you have to keep playing it around that, with an uninvested attack, 225, that's not a lot. Even if it is a 120 base power move getting stabbed, you're not getting too much out of it. Even if it is a super effective hit on fairies, that unboosted completely, you're not going to have any KO potential on almost any fairy type. Even Sylveon that has a bit of defensive investment, you just can't straight up one shot, and then you could get retaliated with a Psyshock and you're going to have a bad time. So a lot of people have found that there's a nice little sweet spot around 96 attack EVs that kind of make you have a lot of 2-hit KO potential with Gunk Shot and Low Kick, and then that still gives you a lot of KO potential with special attack. But now you're making Greninja in a really awkward situation, that this makes it super coverage. That, remember, Greninja, it has to KO. It has to super effective, and that's kind of it. So now it puts more stress on that when you do things like this, you have to run the Hydro Pump, you have to run the Gunk Shot, you have to run the higher damage moves, you have to look for that crazy super effective hit, or else you're not going to have a lot. So that's why I actually don't think Mixed Greninja is incredibly the strongest option. Even Physical Greninja, since your attack is so low, that you might as well just play with your pure special attack and just hope that you can get it. Because what Greninja is really meant to be on a team for is it's a really good glue. That it brings a team together, that it covers a lot of holes. That, you know, if you need something to take out dark type, or not dark type, you need something that has dark coverage. You need quick ice to handle dragons. Greninja's there for you. Water type to cover out some fires really well. Like, Greninja puts out a lot of Pokemon really quickly, and it's kind of like a nice Pokemon to regain momentum. Some people have been taking it a step further though, and now, for all of you guys that have been waiting on my opinion for the Greninja ban, I'm going to kind of give a couple of my ideas in this, because I've already covered Greninja pretty well. That, you know, you look at it, it's a fast Pokemon, it wants to do its job, and there's really nothing else to it. That you kind of have to pick and choose your moveset. That, you know, you have so many options. Which one are you going to take? And then you gotta have to play it to your team. That through some trial and error, you'll figure out what makes your Greninja work best for you. And personally, I like running my Greninja with a Focus Sash. That a lot of people, they'll just stick to the Life Orb, they're looking for that KO. Well, I'm taking it from that 2-hit KO perspective. That, you know, if the Pokemon doesn't have solid coverage, I'm going to at least 2-hit KO them with an Ice Beam or some kind of neutral hit. So, you know, I come in, I make my pick, that's going to be a KO. They try to wall me out. I can 2-hit KO with a Focus Sash, get a lot of solid damage on, or maybe even like catch them off guard. They're like, oh, it's Life Orb, I can wall this out, hit Focus Sash, that's a KO. And then, you know, just keep kind of making it on top of that. So that's one of the interesting things about Greninja. But the thing is, Greninja is really since it's that revenge Pokemon, it doesn't want to be on the field before anything else. That you don't really want to lead with Greninja, and that your opponent is going to do their best to redemption against you. That they're going to bring in a Pokemon and be like, well, I can handle Greninja, and then that's when it's Greninja's turn to say, do I stay in, do I switch out, where's my advantage, what have I done, and I at least got the KO so I can head out. So if you guys enjoyed this video, I hope you all have a nice day.